To be fair, I don't think anyone likes spiders. Like, do you like spiders?
No.
No. Okay. That's what, yeah, no one likes spiders. And I'm like, I'm getting like characterized as like, oh, like she doesn't like spiders.
Hello, you're watching Showbiz Cheat Sheet, where you can find all of your entertainment news. Like, comment, subscribe, and check out cheatsheet.com for our round-the-clock reporting. The second episode of Survivor 43 aired, and the Vesey tribe struggled after a victory in the first episode. The tribe has split into duos. After they lost the immunity challenge, one of those duos had to be split up. Cody knew Nneka would be on the chopping block after what they called an atrocious showing in the immunity challenge, but he wanted to keep her because they had a good relationship and she's helpful around camp. He and Jesse got to work on getting Justine out because they didn't have a good relationship with her. Justine knew she couldn't trust Jesse, but in the end, she didn't have the votes. Justine was the first one to leave the Vesey tribe, and here is our interview with Justine Brennan. So you mentioned that season 41 winner Erica what meant a lot to you since she was a child of immigrants from the Philippines as well.
Mhm.
How much did you think about her while filming?
Honestly, I thought 0% of Erica. It's funny because when you are prepping to go out on Survivor, like I was practicing making fire in my sink for 2 months leading up to that. I was religiously listening to Rob Has a Podcast, like every episode, all the exit interviews, and you do all this prep. And then once you get out there and you're just thrown into it, that all just leaves your mind. And so all you're focused on is survival, and you honestly forget these small things that you would tell yourself going into the game, like, oh, always be observant, like never trust anyone. That all goes out the window.
We saw that you were not a fan of spiders in the wilderness. So even though you were building fires in your sink, did you mentally prepare at all for having to deal with that?
No, and to be fair, I don't think anyone likes spiders. Like, do you like spiders?
No.
No. Okay. That's what, yeah, no one likes spiders. And I'm like, I'm getting like characterized as like, oh, like she doesn't like spiders. Oh, well, she went on the wrong show. But like no one goes on Survivor and is like, oh, hell yeah, I'm excited for the spiders. But yeah, honestly, they were everywhere. Eventually you just kind of get used to it. But they chose to only show a montage of me hating the spiders, which is totally fine.
I will say the Survivor casting, they did manage to find people who were, I think, too eager to eat worms. I was like, guys, it's day two. Like,
Yeah.
why is
Yeah.
everyone talking about eating worms?
And
So,
what they don't show is 10 minutes into us getting to Vesey Beach, Dwight also eats a worm. So yeah,
yeah.
there were a lot of worms that were eaten.
What were you eating?
I was eating purely coconut. It was sad because in my 5 days of being there, obviously we had a pot, like I was able to make fire. We had the recipe for, cooking things. And we had found those like big crawdad looking hermit crabs that are actually like climbing the trees, and they're probably like the size of my fist. And we kind of just like kept them in our pot because none of us had the heart to kill them and cook them and eat them. And so for 5 days, for the entirety of me being out there, we were eating probably an average of one coconut a day.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's what I was thinking. I was like, those crabs will be gone. My family's from New Orleans. Like, you needed me on that tribe.
I know. We were like, oh, we can't do it. And I was like, honestly, I'm fine eating coconut. It's okay.
Got it. Well, I will say you and Owen kind of brought the same energy to your tries, which I enjoyed watching. He complained during self talk while doing chores, but he tried to keep a lid on it around other castaways.
I'm
See,
totally fine being compared to Owen. Like I thought that he was very endearing last night. So
absolutely. But do you think he's going to last much longer? He was already in danger the first week, and then we see,
yeah.
like, even though he's trying to keep things in, it's still seeping out to other castaways on his track.
Honestly, it's hard to tell. And people study Edgic, and I think like some people think that certain people are going to make it far based on what they've said in confessionals, and certain people aren't going to make it far based on confessionals. But it's hard to tell, also because Survivor is largely based on luck, honestly. So we'll see.
Yeah. Were you aware at all about how the people on your tribe were feeling about you?
I knew from day one that I was a target for Nneka and Cody. But I thought Jesse was with me, Noelle, and Dwight. So I didn't know that Jesse not only wasn't with us, but like connected with me the least out there. I was like kind of bummed to hear that because I really like Jesse as a person. I was like, oh dang, like okay. But no, I knew I was always a target. I just didn't know I was that much of a target, I guess.
Why did you already know that Cody and NECA would target you?
I think that I could tell they were making more of an effort with Noelle. I kind of said this in last night's tribal council, but I was the only person that Cody had never gone out of his way to talk game with.
Mhm.
And so I knew that, Cody didn't really have an interest in talking to me, and there's a reason why. He made his mind up about me, from day one. And yeah, I think that he brought Nneka into that, and it was just unfortunate for me.
Did you try to talking with him to try and overcome that distance? Or you were like, all right, I see what it is. I'll focus on other relationships.
I didn't because I knew that he wasn't making an effort with me. I knew that I already had a target on my back. And I also equally thought, like, I don't know if Cody is that strategic of a player. Like, I mean, he was exactly how he is on screen. He's like jumping off rocks and he's like unpredictable. And so for me, I was just like, Cody's Cody. Like, you don't really need to worry about him. But in hindsight, yeah, I should have probably made more of an effort with him and neutralized him more than anything.
Jesse did mention that you guys grew up not too far away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that you're surprised by Jesse. So, what were your conversations like with Jesse?
So, I mean, Jesse grew up in Venice. Obviously, he got sucked into a gang at an early age. I didn't actually grow up in LA, and I do live in Marina Del Rey, which is one town over from Venice. But the Venice that we see now is very different from the Venice that Jesse grew up in, from like how he describes it. So that's one thing. It's just like it's two completely different times. But my conversations with Jesse, I mean, he's obviously like quieter. I don't know if you can really tell that from the TV screen, but like I'm more extroverted, Jesse's more introverted. And so when he would come up to me and talk strategy and like volunteer information from like Cody and NECA, I was like, I took it for like what it was. I was like, okay, this guy like is trusting me with this information. He's actively strategizing with me and trying to plot against Cody and NECA. And so I was a little too trusting with him. And he ended up being not trustworthy. So I should have stuck with my gut.
Were you surprised at all of like how much Jesse was like pulling in Dwight? Like Dwight really did seem like, why would I not want to be insulated by the women
Yeah.
and the guys? And Jesse's like, you are my island wife. I
Yeah.
will take out your other options. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa. And Dwight was not
I
happy
know.
with quick divorce. You got in the middle of that.
So what you don't really see in the edit is that at this point, Dwight was 100% with me and Noelle. He was in our circle of trust. There was no question in my mind that he wasn't with us. And we were happy to have Dwight be the person that on the surface is like neutral and not with us, because that meant that he gets information from Jesse and from other people, and then reports it back to us. But so yeah, I wasn't like too surprised to see him and Jesse like seemingly forming a bond. But I knew that Dwight was with us that entire time.
But Dwight didn't tell you about Jesse then, because you say you still are surprised, even though Dwight's supposed to be your mole.
Yeah, I mean, you even see that Dwight at the end of my tribal council turns to Jesse and is like, "You did that?" Because even Dwight was surprised that Jesse voted on me. I think that we all chose to believe that we can trust Jesse. We decided to just trust him, and so yeah, we were all a little shell shocked when that happened.
Got it. Going to the Beware advantage, I saw that you
Yeah.
said before the season, you're like, we're on the lookout. We know what happens at Ship Wheel, but something new is coming. So you knew that, but like you said, things fly out the window once you're actually there. We see that Cody found the Beware advantage, and luckily he already made a hat. So
It was
he,
honestly genius for them to think of like, oh, let's just bedazzle your hat. So honestly, pun intended, hats off to them for thinking of that.
yes. What was your initial reaction as you started to see what was happening?
So my initial reaction, so I found out at Ponderosa how the Beware advantages worked for my season, and my jaw dropped. I was like, what? Because of course I think back to when I just volunteer my beads for Cody. I'm just like, oh my God. But I was also like, wow, like that is such a creative Beware advantage for our season. And like that's such a creative idol. Like none of us thought twice about it. So they really had us fooled.
Nice. You voluntarily gave your beads. How did
Yeah.
it feel
I
watching
know.
that?
And people on the internet are like, why did Justine just like sign her own death sentence? It's like, well, if I had known that, I wouldn't have done it. Of course, if we had any inkling that this was part of an idol or some sort of advantage, like, no, I absolutely would not have done that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Another thing that tipped the scale probably more to you going home is that you bragged about being good at lying. And Jesse was so creeped out, which is so funny to watch him be like, oh, she's so scary.
Okay, but if you think about it in a normal day conversation of someone being like, "Oh yeah, like I can keep a straight face when I lie," like, and in a game of Survivor where you're encouraged to lie and betray and do all these terrible things that you don't normally do in society, like it was just a one-off conversation that they showed out of context, and so of course people are like, "Why would she say that to him? Like you're sharing too much, Justine." And it's like, well, that was taken out of context, number one. And number two, I thought that I could trust Jesse at this point.
What was the context?
Um, so I believe the conversation was one of the conversations where Jesse came up to me and he was volunteering information saying, okay, so Cody and NECA are they're confused about like why you look so comfortable. Like they think that you're going home tonight. So I think that like what should we go back to them with? Like I think I should tell them XYZ. Like Jesse was strategizing with me. And that's when I was like, yeah, I can ask NECA and just like keep a straight face. Like it was a conversation where Jesse was strategizing with me.
Mm.
And so of course they took it out of context and made it seem like I was just like an overshare, whatever.
Got it. We did see that you later confronted Jesse. You were like, "Oh, I don't trust you like just a teensy bit." Was there any other way you tried to work with him? Because how they framed it, that was like a no go of like Jesse's like, "Oh, she doesn't trust me. Might as well get her out."
Yeah. And they definitely framed it like that. I obviously in hindsight shouldn't have approached the situation like that, but at that point Jesse had already made his mind up about me. He was already voting for me, so what can you do?
Yeah. I am kind of curious. How did you learn about how the advantages worked at Ponderosa?
Obviously as more people come back, I can't talk about like who told me at Ponderosa, but as more people come back, like obviously some people are involved with finding those beware advantages on their respective islands. And that's how I heard about it.
Okay, so now we're at tribal council and we're thinking we're just having a nice little chat about that hat, that visor. But Cody's like, "Well, I'll make you one if you stay." Were you kind of surprised at how direct, like he was not BSing?
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of snarky. And I caught on to that. I also caught on to NECA being like very smiley and like just like exuberant. And so I was like, okay, these people are way too confident in how they're acting right now. That's when I realized that I was going home. But if I'm gonna get memorialized as being nice to Cody, then I will take that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Where, I mean, different things can happen. Some people go desperate at tribal council, and others are like more
Yeah.
accepting. Did you think of the options then once we're starting to calculate, okay, they're trying to get me out?
Honestly, I was still choosing to trust Jesse. If I had known that, okay, I'm going home tonight, I would have absolutely played my shot in the dark. But I didn't play it because I had faith in Jesse. And even in my voting confessional, where I'm like holding up my paper, I say, and you don't hear this, but I'm like, I hope that the four of us stick to the plan. Because we did lay out a plan, and you don't see that on TV. But me, Noelle, Dwight, and Jesse, we had a plan, and it was to split the votes, and it was for NECA or Cody to go home. And so I was a fool for trusting Jesse.
Well, I won't say you're a fool. It's
Thank
just
you.
ironic because you bragged to him about lying, but he was a great liar. Obviously, he had a great poker face.
Yeah, he had a better poker face than me, apparently.
Yeah. Um, was there anything you talked a lot before season that Survivor has a great place in your childhood?
Mhm.
What was it like, I guess, now being an adult, being in the environment and stuff like that? Was there anything that took you by surprise?
A lot of things. I mean, I don't think anyone goes into Survivor having experienced a lot of the things that you experience out there. It was surprising how quickly you get hungry and lethargic. It was surprising that, production really doesn't give you any food on the side secretly. But it was also shocking just like what your body is capable of and what your mind is capable of, even if you're out there surviving and starving and not having slept. Still being able to do those challenges and lift like a 400, 500-pound snake over a 10-foot gate with limited people. So there were a lot of things that surprised me. And it was a really eye-opening experience. I would 100% do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. What are your reactions to the other castaways once you get to learn more about them when you're watching at home?
Um, so I told myself leaving the game that I wanted to get to know everyone as a person outside of the game because I didn't want to see something on screen that would make me judge them as a person. And I think I've done a pretty good job of doing that. I've gotten to know a lot of people pretty well. So what I'm seeing up there honestly is more just amusing and it's entertaining and I'm able to like laugh at a lot of things, but also say like, oh, like that's my friend. So it's a lot of fun watching it.
Who would you say is like the most entertaining to you as like a viewer?
I mean, as a viewer, I understand why they casted Cody. He is reality TV gold, personified. Um, I personally have like some beef with Cody, so I'm not going to name him as my like most amusing person. But I mean, I think that they're definitely starting to show more of Gabler. I thought that the scene last night of him trying to figure out the spear fish was really funny. But yeah, I mean, like it's funny and to me it's just endearing to see these different sides of the people that are on my cast.